Is it on? Oh, wait.
I
Hey,
think so.
everyone.
Hello.
How are you doing? I hope you're doing
How
well.
are you
We're
doing?
figuring this whole live thing out, so give us a
Yeah.
second. We have no... It's like, Facebook, you want to go live? Sure. You want to try our new live I don't know. Just let me go live. Don't make it... don't make it
I'm
not
sharing
work.
it on my
Okay.
Facebook now.
Don't trust. If anybody who knows this... Hey, Emily Nelson. So it is working. Okay, cool.
Oh yay. Cool.
I'm going to put this phone in airplane mode.
Do not disturb mood.
And then I'm going to set it up right here. Don't trust. Why does it keep asking me, do I want to trust this computer? Yes.
You gotta press that one.
I know. Yes, baby. You're right.
You know,
You got
I'm
it.
saying that to the director.
Hey, video person. You just got to hit record when you go, oh, well, thank you.
You know that red button that says record?
That says
You gotta
start.
press that for it to record.
That's technically, if that button wasn't pushed, we wouldn't have internet to even live stream. Okay, I'm going to sit back like this. Can everybody hear us all right? Hold on, the microphone is all over. We're trying to keep the production value pretty high. Hold on, move your foot really quick.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
All
Can
right.
you hear? Uh-oh, maybe let's...
What is happening? Okay.
What is happening? Nobody knows.
Like this.
Where's my other phone?
There we go.
I know I sound bougie when I say my other phone, but...
That is a little bougie.
It's true. I have
Okay.
two phones. Okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, people are joining. Josh.
How's it going?
Hi, Josh. Hi,
Hi,
Kristen
Josh.
Robbins. Hi, Josh Davis.
Hi,
Hello,
Kristen.
everyone.
Oh, yay.
I'm going to have to,
Emily.
Hello, Paula.
Josh Barkley.
Josh
Joshua
Barkey.
Oh,
Kelly
Barkey,
Paul. Gabe Smith. How is everyone
Davis, Paula. Hi, Paula.
doing? Ignore the belly. There's a
Kelly.
virus running around or whatever. That's why. It's all the coronas right here. So we're gonna
sleeping.
We have some people who mentioned specifically that they wanted to join in. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Cassia. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Dart. What's up, Dart? How are you, man?
What's up?
So I figure a lot of people probably just sitting at home figuring out what to do. So my wife and I have decided to do something that she's been wanting to do for quite a while, but I've been very apprehensive to do, and for good reason. Can everybody hear me okay? Is the audio clear?
Everybody inquire. Say yes now. No.
Yes? No?
Yes?
Am I spiking? Is it clear? Is it pervasive, persistent? I'm trying to up the production value here. We're gonna probably start.
I can't really see the. Oh, it's new.
Andrea,
What?
check text. Oh, and Paula, the phone you text me on, since you ain't got no iPhone, is being currently used to record this, so it's in airplane mode.
You can try to maybe text me, but
Text Jen, or text somebody who got an iPhone.
anyway, if you can't hear us, we are recording this, so we will be sharing.
Yes. It's
on
clear.
other
Okay, everybody
platforms.
says it's clear.
So we.
Oh, thank you. Great. Let's begin. How do we do this? Tilt that one down, just so
Okay.
that's better. I
Here
want
we
to
go.
make this as relaxing
Okay,
as
there we go.
possible.
We can see you now, babe, because your eyes were like this before we had the camera. But anyways,
Beautiful.
go ahead, babe.
So the first thing I do is pray, because I want this entire discussion to be taken properly. I want to acknowledge our Heavenly Father in what we're about to say, and I want to yield the microphone to Him, basically. So with that said, Yahweh, my Heavenly Father, thank you so much for life and just health and no cough and a clean respiratory system and a wonderful family and wonderful friends who tune in when we go live. Thank you for giving us a perspective and an understanding on some things about the way this world is working at the moment. May we please honor you in how we share what we know and what we feel led to share. Will you please take any ego or personal bias or misinformation off of our tongue and off of our lips and help us to really just articulate what it is we feel burning inside to say. So with that said, we thank you and we ask for you to just Baruch and help everybody out there who's listening right now. And it's in your son Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So if you catch me looking right here, it's because there's a microphone right here, and I don't know why it's important for me to tell you that, but I just have caught myself staring at what clearly isn't the camera multiple times. Okay, Jen, kick it off.
Say that again.
You want to start?
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah. I would like that, if you would like.
Well, I'm a little nervous on you. I mean, I thought you were going to be leading.
Well, I'll lead.
But that's okay.
No.
See,
well,
that's good. I guess, like you were saying, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I think that Chris has been, wanting to do this too. But of course, we don't want to, share something ahead of time before we really have gotten the grasp of what it is that we are learning. Because, hi Tilin, Shabbat Shalom. We have been on this journey for a while now.
5 years.
5 years.
It started in January of 2015. And we're here now in March of 2020. So it's been 5 years and 2 wonderful months.
Yes.
All that saying, Jen set it up very beautifully. All that to say, if you follow me on Facebook, you know that I'm very sporadic with how I post. Mostly because I don't like talking about the things that I don't feel like I want to talk about on Facebook, because I'm not a huge fan of what social media in general is doing to public discourse. There's so much about human communication that's nonverbal. We have a bird that may or may not decide to fly in here. I hear it flying around. There's so much about human communication that's nonverbal. There's so much about human communication that's really energetic, I feel, in a way. And without being next to someone in person, you're synthesizing that through the phone. You're synthesizing it even more through text message. And even more really through Facebook posts, because you don't get tone, you don't get intonation, you can't catch the heart of what the speaker is saying. And so for that reason, and the myriad of algorithm problems with trying to speak anything of truth on social media these days, I just have remained silent for the most part about what I know and what I think about what's really going on in our world today. And I've had many of conversations. A lot of you who are on this live chat, we've talked on the phone for hours and hours and hours. So you're very familiar with my long-windedness, as she is. And you're very familiar with what I think about things. But not everybody knows. So it's been, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, very scary for me, because I have managed to maintain a brand. See, Holly, a wonderful brand where, for the most part, people like me. I think I don't get much negative feedback. We'll put it like that. And I really have a fear that I'm working on overcoming. That people might not like some of what I'm about to say, and it might come as a surprise to people that I think this way. But if you have ever met me, if you've ever seen my work, I am the same person that you remember. If we worked together at the Apple Store, Dart, if we went to church together, if we grew up together, if we played basketball together, I'm that same guy. I'm just older now. I have a job in Los Angeles that affords me a tremendous amount of off time. There's a lot of times where I'm busy. And then there's a lot of times where I'm just not. I'm just like reading. And that irregularity has afforded me the ability to investigate certain things that a lot of my friends are very smart and very capable, but they just haven't had the time to dive into. So,
I just want to say something real quick before that we have a baby, so I might
wakes up.
Like go in and out of the video. She might come into the video too here soon. I think that I hear her. So while you continue to talk, babe, I'll be right back.
Rebuke that fear. Only what Yah thinks matters. Amen, T. Lynn. Shayna, how are you? I saw your Instagram post the other day and it cracked me up. Michael Hahn, hello. Kristen Robbins, you know the drill. Ours is Brooklyn, Aaron, Phil, Andy Culberson, hey, Jennifer Scarborough, Haven, people. So while I got a microphone before Jen get back, let me tell you what I really think. I'll start it out because she could be, I don't know, 5 seconds or 15 minutes with that baby. Baby's almost 5 months old. I sit here on my couch in my apartment. You can't see the thing, but we busted out the lights. We had to get the production value right. But you finally found some tissue. Amen. We got some toilet paper here too, so we good. We got clean booties up in here. We got shower and toilet paper. We're gonna be good. But if you've ever met me, if you've ever spoken, if you've ever known me, I'm the same person. I'm the same Chris who is critical, analytical. I try not to take too many things too seriously in life, but there is a serious side of me that most people, a lot of you have seen, not everybody, but a lot of you, but not everyone. So with that said, the reason I'm coming to you today is because today is Saturday. Saturday is a day that in many ancient cultures, one in particular, they refer to as the Sabbath or Shabbat. And it has become the practice of my wife and I where we have begun to observe Shabbat. One of the people on this live thread, Aaron Robbins, a great guy, said something once in a conversation where he said, it all starts with the Sabbath and you grow from there. And I think he's right. We began observing Sabbath, I'd say about somewhere in the middle of 2015, really pushed it into full gear in 2016. So a lot of what I'm about to tell you is new in the sense that we haven't been doing it our whole lives. We haven't thought this way our entire life, but in the last 4 to 5 years, a lot has changed. The world has changed. I mean, in your grocery store toilet paper aisle, you can see that a lot has changed in the last 4 or 5 days. So a lot has changed for us in the last 4 or 5 years for the better. And I believe that if you refer, let me preface this a couple times. So this is a part personal discussion, part spiritual discussion. You might hear me refer to use the name or the title Yah. That is YAH, short for Yahuwah, otherwise known as Yahweh. Also known as the proper name for the Elohim, not necessarily God, but the Elohim, commonly known as God, of the people of the Hebrew and Israelite faith, of whom the Bible is written after. So it is a time in this world where many people are scared. I'm not scared, but a lot of people are. And I was more scared of coming on Facebook and talking about this than I am of, catching some virus after some Mexican beer. So I wish to be cheeky and remain lighthearted, but at the same time help people understand what I'm hoping is a lesson that will help them. Now, the other thing that I'll preface this with is, for some of what I'm going to say, I'm going to ask that you implement a practice that I had to learn to do, which is to not decide right away whether I believe something or disbelieve it, but rather to simply understand it. I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not a preacher. I don't want to be a preacher. I'm going to talk to my friends. I'm going to share with you something that's been on my heart that my wife, to be honest, has been begging me to share for like a year. She's like, Chris, you need to talk. You need to get online and say stuff. And I've always been like, nah, I don't really want to right now. I don't feel like I feel like the Father has really put a sharp conviction in my spirit, in my gut, to really be responsible with my speech and what I say. So because of that, I have just, decided I didn't want to like pop off at the mouth with stuff that I was still in the process of learning. I don't think that that's necessarily the case for everyone. I don't have anybody in mind when I say that. And for the most part, I'm going to speak to you about my experience. So when I say that it's my experience, I mean just that. It's me. This is what I've learned. I'm not saying this is what you need to know and you need to do. I'm saying this is what I do in my household, my wife, under the Ruach HaKodesh. Now, if you ever hear me say Ruach or the Ruach, I'm talking about the Holy Spirit. That is the Hebrew term. Ruach is the Hebrew word for spirit. Ha is like of, or like basically a connecting word. Kodesh, Qodesh, is a Hebrew word that pre-existing means holy. It's what most people think when they hear holy is translated from the Hebrew word ruach. Many of you know my wife, who's now tending to our baby, is Swedish. So it begins with an understanding for me of cultural differences. I'm a filmmaker, make videos and commercials to make music, make interesting things about life, and I realized how different other parts of the world were when I traveled there. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I love Charlotte. It's amazing. I have a wonderful time every time I'm back there. But when I began to be old enough to travel, one of the first places I ever went, I believe, was Israel, back in the late 90s. And then Ecuador, Panama, and on some missions trips, Haiti. I've been to Sri Lanka, Dubai. I've been to the Middle East, Lebanon. I've been to China, not to China, but to Japan. I've been to Maldives. I've been to all over. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying this to say the Father has really made me fortunate enough to experience a lot of cultures. I just saw T-Lyn say Kodesh means set apart. You're absolutely right, T-Lyn. That is what it means. But it's I only brought up holy to bridge the gap between what most people are used to hearing. So Kodesh, to be completely truthful, does mean set apart. The Ruach HaKodesh is the set apart spirit. And it is commonly understood to be the Holy Spirit. So that's why I explained it in such a way. However, I've traveled a lot. My travels have gotten me to understand the difference in culture. Sweden is very different from America, but in many ways the same. They speak Swedish primarily, but they also speak English pretty pervasively. And it's been having myself be a part of a multicultural relationship. And even before I met my lovely wife, I was in multicultural relationships prior to that. You just get an appreciation of the else, or the other, the thing that's a little different from you or from me. And that sparked a whole new fascination in me when I began seeking the Father on the truth in all things. My family was a part of a pretty large church and organization growing up in North Carolina, many of whom we're still connected to and friends with today. And I remember when I was 25, we left there when I was 15 years old, but my dad told me a story when I was 25 about how the Holy Spirit had been talking to him, the Ruach HaKodesh had been speaking to him about, a change in phase in his own life, and my mother as well. And he spoke to me. I remember that conversation because he said, it took him a few years to really be obedient to it. Like, he was conflicted as to whether or not what he was hearing was accurate. And long story short, we ended up moving to a different organization, different church, different school. And it changed a lot about my personal identity, I guess I'd say, at the time, because of the socio-demographic that was a part of what we were to what we moved to. But to be honest, it was childhood. It was like I was 15. I didn't have much of a say, and it was fine. But what I've come to understand as an adult, now that I'm 35, I'm like pretty old, is that I say that completely joking. I'm not old. If you're older than 35, you're totally wise, wiser than me. And if you're younger than 35, 30 is the new 20, remember? So I have been at a place where that story my dad told me rang true for me when I was 30. So he told me this at 25 about what he experienced in his spirit when I was 15, and 5 years later when I was 30, the same thing happened to me. I was a part of a church here in Los Angeles that I liked. I had a wonderful group of friends. I was really cool with the pastoral staff, and I did some work for them and for just the ministry, and I had no problem with anybody there. And I felt the Ruach HaKodesh speaking to me, suggesting merely that your time in this phase of your life has come to a close. I'm moving you into a new chapter. It was just as simple as that. It wasn't audible words. It was like an understanding or a knowing, a awareness that kind of came outside of me that wasn't like, some like light at the top of the mountain, but just really like I feel like I need to answer this call in my spirit. And when I did that, it sent me on a journey that I was kind of scared about at first. I was very much like, all right, Father, I don't know what the heck, but I know that I want to honor you and I want to do what's right. And, I've been out here in LA at the time for about 5 years, and I had some pretty good success. I had done some pretty big jobs, some pretty big clients, and I had made not a ton of work connections at that church, but like a ton of friends. And I left and I never went back. And the reason that is because shortly after, the Father made me aware of his Torah. Now, you might have heard this word referred to as law, like martial law, which we're all hoping doesn't become a reality, but you never know. And his Torah was reintroduced to me in a way that was refreshing and very captivating. And to be honest, it gave me a much clearer picture of who he was than I had ever had from having spent a life growing up in church. And again, this isn't to knock anybody. I don't have a single problem with anybody in this world, but the Father has taught me a lot in the last 5 years. And because of my inquisitive mind and my explorative nature, Jen's back, and my wonderful wife who's egging me on and prodding me on over the last 5 years, we have now arrived at a new place. And part of why we decided to start speaking today was almost like a boiling point. This has nothing specific to do with coronavirus specifically, but with the world in a tumultuous state, and the, I guess, vibes, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the homeostasis, the like calmness of the rhythms of everybody going all out of whack when you try to go and get toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and all of it's gone. People are scared, and I over the last 2 or 3 months have been feeling like the Father's really been egging me on, like, Chris, I taught you all that stuff because I want you to share. And somebody mentioned, I think it was our friend Asia mentioned earlier today, about the verse that says, greater love hath no man than this, than you lay down this life for a friend. I don't necessarily hope that I'm at the moment laying down my life, but I'm really sticking my neck out there speaking about things which for the most part are very popular. That being said,
I've been listening in the other room, so I've been hearing you talking about your story.
Yes. Well, all right.
Did you want to hear a little bit, or should we do that?
You got to
in a
speak
bit?
so they can hear. Yes, I would love to hear a little bit of your story, but to be honest, I want to bring people to how we got here and what here is for us.
Yeah.
So we spent today, Shabbat, not working. I fasted today mostly because of this live stream that I'm nervous about. But just kind of reflecting. I talked with my family a bit, talked with some friends a bit, but otherwise reflecting on who the Father is and what he wants to say to us in this time. I feel like, we've never been TV watchers much. I never watch the news, and if you do, I would really suggest that you turn it off, like, basically right now. It has nothing but lies for you, and we'll get into more of that later, but I work in Hollywood. Everything you see on TV is Hollywood. Everything. Not a single thing on TV is not Hollywood. And
I have to also say, everything that we're saying and that we have experienced is like firsthand and through close proximity, through friends that have been in places and been able to share what they've experienced. so it's inside information, I would say. A lot.
I'm looking
A
at
lot of it.
Anthony Meslage, Raul, Cheese. I hope y'all are all doing really well. Okay, let's focus it in.
So,
Today's discussion, we're gonna try to really put the bowling bumpers up. The bowling bumpers up.
This is good exercise for you, babe.
It is. It's great exercise for me because I don't exercise and I ramble and I tangent and I have like 18 tabs open at the same time. So
No, but
if
you
I
know-
ever say put a tab, for all y'all listening, I'm going to try this thing that I have a friend who says this. If you're talking and you want to remember a talking point, you want to, I'm going to create a new tab about this. So all y'all listeners, remember my tabs because I might forget, and then I need y'all to help me figure out what tabs I have open. in this
Your brain
discussion.
tabs.
My brain tabs. Brabs. So.
Well, should we say how we get together? Or
Sure.
How I get, so I heard you tell your story, and I want to tell a little bit of my story too,
Yeah,
so
of
you can
course.
get a little bit of a grasp how we both kind of came from two different worlds. Yes, like he was saying, I grew up in Sweden. It's the second least religious country in the world. And I think China is number one. But, so I didn't really have a religious background, but I came to faith in 2013 from a supernatural experience that I had. I was very, very heartbroken and very, very depressed and sad in 2012, and I started calling out to God. I didn't know what it meant or who, I just wanted, if there was a God, I wanted to know who he was. And so I started praying. The only prayer that I knew, that I had learned, was the Lord's Prayer. So it's called Lord's Prayer. And I learned it in Swedish. And so, I just started saying that prayer every night before I went to bed. And for about a year I did that. And yeah, she doesn't like to be. Anyway, so a lot of different things started happening this year. Oh,
I
hey,
changed my mind.
Ching.
She changed her mind. Go ahead.
So, about a year after I started praying and seeking the Father, I got this message from a girl on my music Facebook page. For you who don't know, I do music and singing. And at this time, I was living in Seattle. And she said, "Hey girl, you don't know who I am, but I just want you to know that God has had me heavenly prayer for you for the last year. And recently I came to know this guy named DC, and he said that he had seen this girl sing Jennifer Newberry before I got married. Now it's Crutchfields, but and she was like, oh my gosh, that's the girl I've been praying for the last year, because she had gotten to faith about 2 years prior, and the Father was teaching her how to pray for people, and she would get names and she would write it down on lists, and I was on top of one of her lists that she had. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, God bless you, girl. God has really big things in mind for you, and God bless you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please tell me more. I've been seeking God myself before I started calling him Yahweh, and knowing all the different Hebrew ways of saying things. And she was telling me things that no one would know about me except me. She was saying, sometimes you do this, and God wants all his people to walk in love. And do you do this sometimes? And this. And I'm like, ooh, I didn't know people knew that. Or I didn't know that, that anyone would know that. Of course, if you're God and the creator of all things, you would know this. But so I felt really convicted. And she was saying, that I was one of his chosen vessels, that the devil is real and has been trying to destroy me since I was born. And God, said that he knew me before I was born. And so so many things started happening when she told me this. My conviction, like I said, I was so convicted. Prior to this, I had had 2 abortions. I think I've said this before for people that know me. And I instantly felt, oh my gosh, like this, if this is, what I did in the past was not right. There's something to the spiritual world. And I have to say, before I came to faith, I also was very much into, ghost and spirit stuff. And I've had a lot of things happen in my family that are supernatural.
Yeah.
And I've had dreams that come true and things like that. So I was no stranger to
The paranormal.
the paranormal. But yes, so after this, it just felt like something different, something that I've never encountered before, this conversation that I had with this girl. And so I said, okay, I believe you, but tell me, what do I do now? Like, do I go to the library? Do I Google this? How do I move forward? And she just told me, God wants you to understand his love for you. Start at John, reading the book of John in the New King James Version. And I didn't understand what she meant when she said New King James Version. I had to Google that, and I had to figure out, what books to read. I didn't know how to read a Bible. I didn't know scriptures, how to, I didn't know any of that. I learned it all on my own through, of course, the Ruach HaKodesh. And so I started reading. I read the book, and I believed everything was it was like the veil was lifted. I understood what I was reading, and I was like bawling my eyes out. And so anyway, after that, I started this journey where I was just reading the Bible, and before I even started going to church or whatever, I understood what I was reading. I didn't need anybody to explain it to me. I had the Spirit explaining it to me. And she said, don't worry. This girl that brought me to faith, she said, don't worry about not understanding, because you will. The Father, or God, he will minister to you through his Holy Spirit. And she also said that I will be singing and talking to his people. And the reason why he chose me was because I would do that. And so, I'm just trying to kind of, say it in a very short form, because there's so much more detail to the story. But a few things that she said to me was that I was gonna meet the love of my life soon, and we're gonna say nice things to each other, and I was gonna get baptized, and I thought this was really random information. Like I just did not expect to hear her say that. But so, what happened?
Nothing. I'm talking to the bird.
Oh, so yeah. This was, about a half or 6 months later, that's when I moved to Los Angeles. And at the end of 2014 is when I met Chris. And I had another person tell me that my husband was coming soon when I moved to Los Angeles. And also, I made a prayer that I was ready to meet my husband. And so here we are.
Here we are. The unique thing about Jen's experience is that it's very different from my upbringing. But when we met, we were both at this like fork in the road in life. She had come from...
Just one more detail. She told me that to be careful about listening to man, because they don't always have your best interest, and to pray for truth in all things, and to remove all deception, and to do that prayer, and to stay in his word. Okay, yeah. To feed my spirit with to get to know him, only to know him through his word. Okay, go ahead. Okay. That's what I want to say.
I'm going to give you
I'm not sure, but for now.
For? Okay, I'm just playing. So when Jen and I met, I was at a really low point from a host of things that happened to me in 2014. And we met at the very end of 2014. And it was that season where I finally began to answered the call to the Ruach that I was mentioning earlier in this video. And it was kind of this unique experience that I'm learning something new with someone new who's interested in the same thing. And it's very deviant in the sense that it's unpopular. He's like, you know, the first question we get asked, the second we say, oh, we observe Shabbat, is, oh, so you're Jewish. No. I mean, we empathize with Jewish people. We love Jewish people. I've been to Israel. I love it. I had a wonderful time there. I have Jewish friends and family all around. We've become more Jewish-like than ever. But the tribe of Judah was one of 12 sons of a man named Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. The covenant that was made with Abraham and perfected through his son Isaac and then promised through his son Jacob, whose name became Israel, applies to all of the people who fall under his seed line, his bloodline, and not just Judah. Judah is wonderful. That's the bloodline that the Messiah came through, so that's a very important one, but it's not the entire story. And if anything about this current world, current state of this world rubs anybody the wrong way, it should give you enough ammo to understand that there are things that we're not being told. It took me a while to find that out. Most people might admit that, oh yeah, the government lies, or, you know, there's probably things that we aren't being told, but never follow through with identifying what those things are, why they're not being told that, and what significance that has on your very well-being. So for us, it became paramount to discover what that was. So the whole journey of all this began with a YouTube series that my father sent me. He sends me videos from time to time, most of which are very fascinating. And he said, Chris, check this out. I saw this YouTube video. I mean, he doesn't talk like that, but I'm just making him into a character. Anybody who knows my dad knows he can talk too, but he doesn't talk like a cartoon character. But today he talks like a cartoon character. Chris, check out this video. It's called the Know Your Enemy series. It's a Christian, the tagline is the Know Your Enemy series, a Christian perspective on the New World Order. Separate story, my father is a tennis coach. He's a tennis player. Like the idea of tennis, it's way too hot for me to play outdoors, so he lost us at childhood with tennis. But basketball, I played. For many people who personally know me, I know how tall I am, and I played basketball a tremendous amount of my life. And my dad used to always say that God spoke to him through tennis. He taught him a lot of lessons about the kingdom of heaven through the game of tennis. And I feel that in my journey, the Father has taught me a lot of lessons about his kingdom through basketball parallels, and really about the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light at the same time through this concept of the home team and the away team. Full court presses, 3-point shots, layups, these fundamental sports things that really are cosmic principles. That's why they translate from baseball to football to basketball to tennis, is because they're like intrinsic truths and not so much sports specific truths. And
I was coming from that life too, that other side of Christianity, the other side of knowing the Father, completely, on the other side.
The other side of things. So we are now at a point in this country where things most likely are about to get really weird pretty quick. And, we'll get into all the coronavirus stuff later, but what we wanted to spend time doing today on Sabbath is really acknowledging the only protection that we could possibly have in these coming times. Toilet paper is going to last you as long as it lasts, right? Stocking up on food is the smartest idea that you could be doing at the moment, but it's not going to save you from the earth imploding or, like a flood or some nuclear explosion. It's simply going to be provision and protection by the only thing that can actually protect you, that is God, that I refer to as Yah. Because, as we know, God is a title. False gods are gods. Lowercase gods are gods. Gabriel, mentioned in the book of Enoch, is a spirit's name, a fallen angel's name, that we try as little as possible to give credence to, now that we know the truth. I don't fault people who do, but we have chosen to step up to the plate of learning and purifying our tongue, like learning how important utterances is. That's, I was talking to Jen last night.
Oh yeah.
About the start of this whole thing, and I'm thinking, I feel like I don't want to have too much of a format about how I share what I share. I just want to basically get the stuff off my chest the Father's been talking to me, and not make it about teaching you what you need to know, but really talking to you about what I've learned, to be honest. Just what we've learned. Yeah, what we've learned, and how it's challenged us, and how it's been difficult, and how it's been rewarding at the same time.
And it's been very also like supernatural moments where we've prayed about things, and then they have, we've gotten the answer in different ways, and things start to make sense after everything that we have heard. And there's so much information online. So much,
and a lot of it's true, and a lot of it isn't.
Yeah, it's small little puzzle pieces, and sometimes I sit there we sit there, we watch it, and we're like, man, I wish they wouldn't, I wish that, this is what we've learned too, but this part, that what we learned is not a part of the way.
Right.
So, as far as we have come to know. And so there are a few points that we have that we, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I know. And not finished. There are a few points that we have. Are there? What points do we have? Where are you going with this?
Tell the points, babe, because we had points, right? No, just kidding.
No,
but it's a few controversial things, and I think they are really important. And even when it comes to the Hebrew movement, we are not like everyone else.
Yeah.
If you have noticed, we kind of just walk our little way ourselves. Not to, maybe I shouldn't have used that as the soundtrack for the way.
Do you follow God? Here's the soundtrack for all the people who are following the Torah.
But we are gonna say things
it's like a shofar, but way higher.
That it's gonna be maybe kind of unpopular, and so I think we should
stop beating around the bush. We set it up this way so that we're hoping to stave off offense. Please don't be offended by what we say. Like I said, don't agree. Just listen. Just understand and decide later what you think. Like, pray about what we're saying. The first thing that we're kind of chiefly coming to understand is that the faith that I grew up in, the Christian faith, is fundamentally flawed. It has gaping, massive problems with it. And many people feel this but can't articulate it. A lot of people don't feel it, and other people don't pay any attention to it, so they don't know anything about it. But I know vitriol or hatred toward any of my friends who are Christian. I simply know a few things that I was led about, that we were all misled about, and that has a lot to do with the origins of the faith. It's like playing basketball in a tournament with a team with an opponent you've never spent any time watching the game tape about. There's a tremendous amount of Roman, pagan, satanic, Luciferian merging, or syncretism, I believe is the official theological word.
That was synced a long time ago.
That was fused with an otherwise Hebrew movement 1800 years ago that hasn't changed from a corporate standpoint, but individuals are beginning to learn something's not, like the Father's reaching out to a lot of people. So this is our attempt at talking to those who have the ears to hear. I'm not an argumentative person, so I do not feel like arguing with you. If you do not agree, that's cool. But for those who don't know what they think, or who are open to hearing me speak from my heart about something that frankly is a bit scary to speak about, then this is that. We have learned, we really get the conviction that this whole season that we're heading into in 2020 is going to be a turning point for the country. And I think it's going to test a lot of people's faith. And I won't say a fear, this is more of a figure of speech, but I'm afraid that it's going to shake a lot of people's faith, because that faith was built on sand by pastors, priests, popes, and ministers who who are miseducated, most of whom are very good people who mean well, who work really hard at learning all that they can learn, but who have been given a sandbox that's 1800 years in the making, that they just don't know what they don't know. We're coming up on the season. It's March 14th, pretty soon, of Easter and Passover. Lent is upon us, I think, already. We do not celebrate Lent. We do not celebrate Easter anymore. We stopped that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Easter, if you're curious, is the Latin way to say the name Ishtar. If you're familiar with Ishtar, Ishtar is a Babylonian, or I should say an Egyptian. I think Isis is the Egyptian name. Ishtar is either the Sumerian. I forget the actual kingdoms that represented the different names, but the kingdom of Babylon, of ancient Babylon, of Nimrod, the Babylon you see in the book of Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Genesis, that Babylon had a dynamic between the father, mother, and son. That was Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. When you put ash on your forehead and you weep for Tammuz for 40 days, like spoken about in the book of Jeremiah and Amos, that's a pagan thing. It's been whitewashed and Romanized and offered to you as a measure by which you can, fast from something indulgent to then pave the road that leads up to the resurrection. But the resurrection was not something we were ever asked to celebrate. We were asked to observe Passover. So when you see Yeshua, that's another thing. You'll hear me mention Yeshua or Yahushua a lot. I try very little to say Jesus as much as possible because that simply wasn't his name. Her name is Jennifer. My name is Chris. You can
and
come
Yeshua
up with,
means Yah, our salvation in Hebrew.
Yeshua is a sentence. It's literally a sentence in Hebrew. It means Yahweh, our salvation. So when you read that verse in the scriptures that says salvation is found by no other name, it's literally kind of a way of explaining the whole point of the sentence of Yeshua, Yahweh Ushua, to say Yahweh is our salvation. And Yahweh is the same. Like a lot of Christians, every Christian I know would pretty much agree with this statement that our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I believe that. There's a lot of things about my childhood that I have not changed from. I firmly do still believe, because I believe that any great deception is built on a majority of truth, to be honest. A couple of key, gaping wide scale holes, but for the most part, many, many truths. And the model that Yeshua laid forth when he was asked in Matthew chapter 19 by the rich man about how to obtain eternal life was not believe in me or wait a few weeks until I die and then acknowledge that I died, and then as long as you acknowledge that, then you'll be in heaven forever. His answer was keep the commandments. Mm-hmm. And then the guy was like, well, which one? And he rattles off the first 5 of the 10 commandments, first 4 or 5. And then the guy says, well, I already do that. And he goes, well, great. If you already do that, then you're already in good shape. So sell everything you got and come follow me, and I'll teach you how to perfect that. But following, we'll use a metaphor here. Following Beyonce, right? Which women and girls everywhere do. It's not about just hitting the like button and one time saying, I acknowledge that Beyonce is the queen of pop. No, I don't even think that she is. I think Beyonce is a very high practicing witch, if you know about. I don't even have to qualify that statement. I work in Hollywood. We know people who know her. We know plenty of people.
Many accounts about her.
Yeah,
yes.
We've heard story after story after story after story. So we'll get into that another time too. But to follow her is to mimic her. It's to do what she does. It's to dress like she dresses. It's to step like she steps and sing like she sings. Mm-hmm. That's essentially a better way to apply a concept of following Yeshua.
Or worshiping someone.
Or worshiping her, correct. Because again,
taking on their entire character.
Correct. The point is to understand the context and the language of the people that you read in the book that we call the Bible. Now, again, we're not going to splinter this too much, but this is a story of a Hebrew people to completely abrogate and to do away with the context of the Hebrew culture is to set oneself up for failure. When it's like that's like saying, I want to be like Chris Crutchfield. I'm gonna follow him, but I don't know nothing about Americans and nothing about black folk. How successful do you really think you're gonna be at following me?
It's like
honest question.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't say.
Don't jump.
Okay.
I'm like, bridle my bride. Hold it back. See, if any of y'all know anything about this relationship, I'm the calm one. She's the pit bull. I'm the Maltese in this whole situation. I'm like underdog, or like, I don't know, Gumby's little dog or whatever. It's more like Rin Tin Tin K9 Cop or something like that. Like, she's like, got the chompers ready to rock.
But I just think that it's a good parallel when you say, it's like someone that's white saying that I want to be like Chris Crutchfield, but he's white, and he's just being white, if that makes sense.
All right, baby, you're about 3 feet away from a racist.
No, but it's like being white and going into his family just being who he is and saying that he wants to be like Chris, but he's still like his old self, if that makes sense. Okay, that was maybe just take that and throw that part away. But
this is live. No
together,
It was your idea to do it live. I said, you sure you don't want to just re-record it? That way you can just backtrack if you mess up. You're like, no.
I want you to see the realness.
All right, now the push comes to shove. So, all that to say, I fell in love with finding out who Yeshua was, who Yahweh was. Like, that was my whole thing. When I left church, I said, I don't want to lose my faith. I want to know who Jesus is. I really want to know. So,
can I just say one thing? Well, when I started reading the Bible, and I had a clear understanding that there was 2 separate things. It was Yah, and then was Yeshua, and that they are not the same. And when I started going to church, that's when I started hearing things that I didn't recognize while reading the book itself, where it's saying that Jesus is God. And I said, okay. I didn't realize that by reading the book myself, but okay, I went with it. Come to find out that through our research and through our prayers and everything, is that it is 2 separate things. But now you can take over, baby.
All right, Chris, I set you out on a cliff, on a ledge. There's a tightrope, and there's a wobbling thing in your hand to balance yourself. What Jen is trying to explain is, in the process of the last 5 years, what we've done is had to do a lot of unraveling of my Christian roots, and a lot of focusing in on what is really true and what has been added. There's a tremendous amount of pagan concepts added to the scriptures, chief of which is the idea of the Trinity. I'm going to colloquialize here for all my familiars. Jesus does not go prior to his time before his crucifixion and pray to himself. Dear me, if there's any way that this cup can pass from me, please do that. Thanks me.
And then go and die for 3 days. No, it can.
You have to go. It's been allegorized.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
It's been allegorized to overlay a Trinitarian model. The concept of the Trinity is nowhere to be found in the Torah, and it is quite dangerous because what it does is it removes the focus from the Father. I fully believe at this point Yeshua was the Son of God, absolutely. Was he the Messiah? Absolutely. But let's redefine what that word Messiah is, because it's not an English word. It's a Hebrew word, Mashiach. It means something. We need to figure out what they meant by it, not what we think that they meant. And if you're sitting under the leadership of anybody who explains it in the way that 99% of the rest of Christendom explains it, they're probably misleading you. And in fact, I should say they're definitely misleading you, because the words of Yeshua, I do believe, are true. Wide is the gate that leads unto destruction, and many there be that find it. Narrow is the path that leads unto righteousness, and few there be that find it. If you're a part of something that 2.2 billion people agree with you on, you're not on the few. I'm sorry to tell you, somebody's going to break it to you, and I'm going to try to do it as loving and as patiently as possible. But the one thing that nobody does these days, no religion ever, is follow the Torah. Now, you might look at Judaism, well, they keep the law. Like, no.
But you gotta explain. Did you explain what the Torah is?
Okay, I'll explain. Judaism of today is rabbinical Babylonian captivity synthesized Judaism that really places more emphasis on the Talmud and the Mishnah than the Torah. But I'll backtrack a bit. We have a daughter. She's 5 months old. There are things we are going to tell our daughter Eve about how to act and how to conduct herself that will not change when she's 18. It will not change when she's 38. It will not change into her death. We will teach her to respect one another. We will teach her to share. We will teach her to love one another. We will teach her to forgive.
Not to steal.
Not to steal. We will teach her how to be fair if she's going to let someone borrow something. It's not exclusive to Legos in a playroom and changes when she's 18. She needs to let somebody borrow $50 for gas. And when she's 38, she needs to let somebody borrow $500 for rent. These are principles that we're laying down in our daughter so that she is set up to be the best human that she could possibly be. This is the Torah. The Torah is Hebrew and is most aptly translated as the loving instruction of our loving Father. I believe that marriage and fatherhood are models by which we can come to understand the Father better. I didn't realize that as acutely as I thought I would until I had a child. Many of you have children. I'm on my first one, 5 months in almost. It's crazy. I barely slept for 3 of the 5 months. I barely sleep now. Now that she's old enough, I can barely get anything done. But I look at her and I see her try to hold her neck up, try to turn around, laugh, and I overwhelmed with joy and love for her, even though she can't quantify that yet, and she doesn't need to. That's not the point. The point is for her to understand specifically how I love her. It's for her to trust, and for me to keep my end of the commitment and actually love her and protect her, and go get diapers when the grocery store is crazy and stuff like that, and so that you don't have to deal with that type of thing. But the Torah of Yahweh is his loving instruction. It's like if you run track, and I ran the 4x100. And I love this analogy because 4x100 is a relay race. You hit that first 100, I'm a sprinter. People, you either have fast twitch muscles or slow twitch muscles. I got fast twitch. That means they fire really quick, but they don't carry a lot of oxygen for long lengths of time. Other people have slow twitch. They don't fire as quick, but they last way longer in terms of stamina for cross-country runners and long-distance runners. I am a runner, jumper, long jumper. 200 meters is too long. 100 meters is barely all I can take. 300 meters I'll probably collapse. And my track coach in high school loved to make me almost die every practice and run the 300 hurdles. I hated it. But I loved the 110 meter hurdles, and I loved the 4x1 because that relay race requires that 4 people get their lock in step. The kingdom of heaven is like a relay race, and you're the anchor. The race has begun. It started before Adam and Eve. It started before you was born, for you popped out your daddy's nuts. And
very visual.
It behooves us to respect that order and to follow the model that's been laid down before the English language existed. Is to respect culture. I come from a minority culture where a large part of the culture is looking for respect and a voice in many ways. And turn this into a racial thing, but there's conversations to be had about how to respect that voice, how to partner with a fellow human or mankind and say, listen, I respect you, I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to respond to that with acknowledgement and respect that I know will mean something to you, not just what I feel is enough to feel like you should feel respected, but what you really genuinely feel respected by. And so when you factor that in conjunction with cultural differences, just getting out of America, getting out of your home comfort zone, learning how other cultures just do life different than you. For me, it hit me with a conviction to go, I spent all day in church. I could like all of the tribes of Israel, all the Beatitudes, all the Ten Commandments. I had Bible verses, Christian school, Sunday school, Wednesday night church, Sunday night church. We were in church every day. And I have no clue about who the Father really is. We're going to read verse here in a second, but I got these new Bibles. Tangent here, it's purple. This particular translation is called the Hallelujah Scriptures. Some of you might have heard of this, others of you might have not. It's nothing too funky about this Bible. If you notice, it does have, where is it, Matthew. We're about to read something from Matthew, but it over here gives the Hebrew name of Matthew. If I look at, I don't know, I'm trying to find like a specific verse, or I don't know, this is maybe not the best reference, but when it talks about, here, right, Matthew chapter 1. This is the book of the genealogy of Yahuwah HaMashiach, Bane of Dawid, Bane of Abraham. That's what I said, Yeshua. The bird is like, what we reading? Hey bird, you finally decided to join the party. Sorry, the book of the genealogy of Yeshua. So this Bible is unique in that it changes the names of the people involved in the story to their names. And I think that's important for one main reason, because there's power in a name. Oh, what's in a name? A lot's in a name. Apparently, salvation's in a name. And the name that they spoke pre-existed the letter J even existing as a phonetic utterance. Mm-hmm. Phonetic utterances have power. If I ooh, that's a phonetic utterance. If I say you, that's a phonetic utterance that has a definition associated with it. You. That means something to you. If I say woogity boogity 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 boo, that's a phonetic utterance that has nothing associated with it. If I say,
as we know,
it's that's a phonetic utterance that Missy Elliott has already back in the 2000s when she tried to put her thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Right? All these are phonetic utterances, and if you notice, I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. If you put that and reverse it, it literally says, that's what she's saying in that thing. She's just taking the line before it and reversing it. Phonetic utterances mean something. We have to, we're a society that is very egocentric. Believe this. I believe this. It does not matter what you believe. For many will come and say, well, we healed the sick and we cast out demons and we did all these things in your name. And I'll say, depart from me. What's the rest of that verse? You worker of iniquity. Now, iniquity is really the most important word in that verse, if you ask me. And iniquity is an English word. Does anybody know what the Greek counterpart to that word is? I'm just going to skip ahead and say, give you the answer. Iniquity. Oh, you hit escape. Don't hit escape by accident.
No.
I had to bring Misdemeanor Elliott into this. I did, Asia. She needs. Missy is underrated. No, I'm just playing. What was my tab? I lost my train of thought.
That everything had the utterance.
Okay. Yes. Utterances. Thielen gets it. Iniquity is the English counterpart of the Latin word translated from the Greek word anoia, translated from a Hebrew word that is, I don't even know what it is because it's lost. You know, there is no extant Hebrew versions of any of the New Testament books at this point. However, iniquity is the English word we have for anomia. Anomia is defined as the abrogation, the complete putting aside of, whether through ignorance or through deliberate decision, of the law, in parentheses, of Moses, whether you were never told that you needed to keep it, or whether you were told and you just feel like you don't believe you need to do it. That is the very reason that Yeshua will say to many people, for I never knew you. I mean, you know, all those people came to him and say, well, listen, we did all this and we healed the sick and we cast out demons and I had revivals and I had albums and all these things. It's okay, wonderful. But you didn't actually do what I asked you to do. So I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I love you. I sent people your way to help correct you, just like Ezra did, just like Nehemiah did, just like Jeremiah was, just like Isaiah was, just like Amos was, just like Obadiah, just like Jonah, just like Micah, just like Nahum, just like Habakkuk, just like Zephaniah, just like Haggai, just like Yeshua, just like Kepha, just like all of them. And you didn't listen. So unfortunately, you have to pay the consequences of not listening because others did. And it's unfair to them if you get to reap the same reward for your lack of...
He wouldn't be righteous.
It wouldn't be righteous. You're right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Our Father is a righteous Father. If you have children, and you say, children, do your homework, clean your room, and then you'll get to play video games. One child does it and the other one doesn't. You don't reward them equally. That's unfair. And I believe that there's so many models that our Heavenly Father has, that I'm seeing these comments come in. I just can't read them all and keep my train of thought. So I will readdress them here in a second. But there is a model that the Father has set down very long ago through his servant Moses. Moshe is his name, who in his time, if you ever remember the story of Abraham that leads to the story of Moses, Abraham's name was Avraham, but before it was changed that to Abraham, it was Abram. He lived in the land of Ur Kasdim, Ur of the Chaldeans, as some people call it. And that was an entirely pagan nation. The Father literally plucked Abraham out of an otherwise pagan nation and said, listen, Abraham, I need you to understand a few things. And Abraham answered that call in a time where he was the only one doing it. And everything in your Bible is basically a story about that man's decision and everything that's happened downwind. And so if we don't understand the full extent of what went on back then, we are being set up for failure. This whole coronavirus thing is the perfect metaphor for how we're being set up for failure. The news is telling you, only old people are getting this, and it's kind of like a common flu. It's not really anything to worry. For 2 weeks later, change their mind, right? None of us have lab tests. None of us have COVID-19 tests laying in our backyard. We're relying on them to tell us what the deal is, and they're fumbling the football left and right. And so we're way past the extent of being able to trust a constitutional government. That stuff ended a long time ago. And you can tell if you look outside, nothing seems fair about due process in this country. Freaking pedophiles get off. People who have weed charges go to jail for 15 years. I knew people serving 40-something years in time because they was in the car with somebody else who shot somebody. It's and this dude over here is murdering 15 people a day, and all he pays is community service. It's you can tell it's off. But how off it is really what we've been studying for the last 5 years.
It's supposed to be built off of
in God
one
we
God,
trust. One nation under God, indivisible with liberty. No, it's not indivisible. It's been divided. We're well past.
And go ahead.
We're well past that. I'm gonna sit back because you get me all riled up. I don't want to get riled up. I want to relax.
Well,
I want to talk to my friends.
Well, Chris was saying earlier, when we got this this video 77 part series of how the world works, that's when we started to kind of break apart everything that's going on in this world. Right. And that's where it started. That's where it began. And I had an inkling of things not being right in this world. Even before I came to faith, I knew that something wasn't right, that there is evil working. And but the thing is, it's very organized. It's set up from the beginning. Organized. It's nothing new under the sun. Meaning, the devil did get kicked out of heaven at some point, and better believe that he's using the same tricks that he's always used. So where does that bring us today? I'm going to try to, like I said, I tangent. I do. So I'm going to put the bumper lanes back up. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to help you. Really? You helping me? I'm trying to.
I'm trying to help you completely go off target. I'm just playing. So we are entering a season where I believe a testing is about to occur. If nobody has ever told you that Ishtar is the pagan equivalent of Semiramis, Isis, Diana, Astarte, same Astarte, Asherah
It's
that you
just
see.
one.
If
It's one.
the same Asherah that you read in the book of Joshua that says have nothing to do with this pagan sex goddess, this fertility goddess of pagan sexual origin. Nothing to do with that. That is Ishtar. Ishtar is Easter. There is no difference. The only difference is that the Roman Catholic Church, under the Pope, we'll get into all that later, and not even the current Pope, but popes and emperors of long ago, has decided, after capturing the nation of Israel for their pervasive disobedience, by the way, the Father punishes them by going into captivity. That's what the Bible is, a story of 5 or 6 cycles of Israel being established, prospered, effed up, screwed up, got hemmed up.
By getting very far away from following the Father.
By getting very far away from following the Father. We have instances of kings like Josiah and Hezekiah who find portions of the Torah, who come and reestablishes it, but by and large, mention dirty Diana. Diana is the same deity, and Michael knew this. Michael Jackson was not an idiot. He knew this. Dirty Diana, look at me, right? Michael he dealt with a lot more than people realize. We won't get into that right now, but all that to say, Easter is a dedicated holiday for that. It has never been about the resurrection. That has been a lie to fool and to compromise well-meaning Christians who I believe earnestly and fervently do wish to celebrate the resurrection to honor the resurrection of their Messiah. I don't think there's anything wrong with one's desire to honor that. I do, however, think that we have a little bit of a problem, because I'll explain it like this. Do you think the Father, Yahweh, the Father of the Old Testament, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, finds any honor in you establishing and celebrating with the rest of the pagan world a holiday that he never asked you to celebrate, about the resurrection of his son, so they say, on a day dedicated to a Sumerian goddess who he did ask you to have nothing to do with? I'll ask you that one more time. Do you think the Father finds any honor in you celebrating a day that was never asked of you, no matter how earnest and well-meaning you use it if your intentions? A day dedicated by name, literally by phonetic equivalence, to a Sumerian or pagan goddess deity known as Ishtar, commonly referred to as Astarte or Easter. Astarte or I'm jumbling my words. Do you think he finds honor in celebrating something he never asked you to do on a day dedicated to a female sex goddess he did ask you not to associate with? The answer for me was no. I don't think he finds any honor in that. I'm sorry I ever did that. Please forgive me. Thank you for instructing me. We'll set this Easter out. That was our prayer in 2016. And what we did decide to do that year was, okay, or not, we did that in 2015, but in 2016 we're like, okay, what he does ask us to do is observe Pesach, that is Passover. There's a reason for this. This is like a relay race. There is an order and a decorum to the forum of the heavenlies. You can hear astral projectors talk about this. You can hear psychics in some cases talk about this. I don't lend credence to their words, bring them up to simply say, some people get it. If you don't get it, that don't mean it's not to be got. It just means you've been sleeping. And I was asleep for a very long time. And the fact of the matter is simply, Passover is coming, and we're coming upon a season where it's time to start doing what the Father asks if you want to be protected. That's really why we started this video. Because, I can't tell you what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. I know that I have a friend who has a cousin who lives in Italy, and I'm getting direct updates from people in Italy, Naples, Italy, right this today, who are like, they're really bad here. Like, a few days ago, the person was like, oh, everything seems okay. We feel like it might get a little worse. But, for the moment, everything is good. Are you allowed to go out your house? Yeah, we can go out our house, but they're telling us that we probably should stay at home and not try to go out. 3 days pass, and this person is like, it's getting worse. It's like, I don't really know what's happening here. We're kind of a bit more scared. And we're basically being told that we shouldn't be leaving the house whatsoever unless an emergency, or we have to go get food at the market.
For everybody that's asking, why is everybody stacking up on toilet paper? That would be the reason.
That would be the reason.
Because they are quarantining people. They are not allowed to leave their house for the most part. So that's where that comes from.
That's where that comes from. We hope, and our prayer is that the Father's will be done. We're beyond praying, please save America. America is rotten. You can tell.
It's gone far astray.
It's
because of the leadership, that people have bowed down to, basically. And we're seeing it. People are saying that they're following God or following
Hi, Megan.
Christian, or even the president right now saying that he is, but he's not doing anything. He's not acting like he is, or doing things, or signing, petitions or laws that's against what the Father in heaven asked. So, not to I'm not really into the politics thing. I'm not left or right. I'm trying to go the straight and narrow way.
Right.
But you have to recognize that the people that are in control, or the people that are in charge, are not leading you in the direction of the Father.
At all. And any clergy that's ever been affiliated with him was put in place to basically do the same type of misleading. So the whole different tangent for a whole different day. All of that to say, we're entering into a phase where, in order to be protected from what's coming, you're going to need to be very autonomous in your thinking. You have to think for yourself, and you're going to have to trust and listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, to guide you in this. The baby's crying. Okay. You're going to have to trust. The bird will hang with me, right, Chamby? We good, Chamb? Okay, cool. You're going to have to trust that the Holy Spirit will guide you. And in order to do that, you have to be in the will of the Father. I know a lot of people might feel like they are, but I'm here to tell you, his will is established from the beginning, and it does not change. And my heart, like, that's the main reason I'm doing this. It's because I'm like, I know people, this is not a name bragging session, but there are people I know who personally know that. I've never met Donald Trump personally. I don't hate him. I don't like him. I am right in the middle. I recognize what he's doing. The conversations that I have with the people who did know him paint a very different picture as to what's going on. Out of the 3 people I know who know him, 2 are sympathetic to him, and 1 hated his guts. 1 was a wardrobe stylist on The Apprentice, or the Miss America pageant. 1 was a politician who ran for president himself. Did some commercial work for like a year or 2 ago. And the other one is an individual who I grew up with, who recently passed away, but who knew him. And all the conversations I had with all of those individuals painted enough of a picture for me to understand nobody has any clue about what's happening. There are no idiot billionaires. I want to say that a few more times. There's no such thing as an idiot billionaire. All right? There's very few millionaires, with the occasional, lottery winner, but there is 0, I feel, idiot billionaires. Now, they're foolish billionaires. There are narcissistic billionaires. There are evil billionaires, but there are no stupid ones. And the wind up, the overplay for the underlay, just to go like this and slap you with this hand, is what's happening in America with this coronavirus thing. And we could get into the minutia of the numbers and the metrics that are kind of coming from every direction that are all wrong. People, if anybody knows anything about China, that China, I have this again, no knock on China. I have some friends who are Chinese who are wonderful people. I have nothing against the country. But the government isn't a transparent government. They don't just tell you the truth. That's not the case. Our government, that's land of the free and home of the brave, they don't tell you the truth either. So a Chinese Communist Party does not disseminate the truth. If you trust the government, you're being set up. If you don't trust the government, you got enough of a head on your shoulders to know, okay, something we're not being told. And I feel like a lot of people know that. I've talked to a lot of people about this whole coronavirus thing, and everybody's of the understanding that something we're not being told. When you see the president give a speech in the White House press room, and next to him stands the president of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as the CDC, best be understanding that they're buddies. So there's no such thing as I trust the guy standing next to him. That's illogical. It doesn't make sense. The only warning I'll give you, at least at this point, is pray, save, prepare. Okay, so go buy a bunch of toilet paper, buy food. What's the worst that can happen? You have a garage full of food and nothing happens? Your neighbors laugh at you? What's the best that could happen? You end up like people in Italy where you can't really even leave your house, and all of which changed in the last 10 days. You're the only person who has food and toilet paper. And you can help people if you have more than you need. You can be in a position to educate people and to serve people. And these are the things that Yeshua said. For every time you helped me, when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me. I forget the verse reference, but you guys know it. And the disciples are looking, when were you naked? When did you do this? It's like, well, whenever you did this to the least of these, you did it unto me. This is religion. What we do is not a religion. People ask us all the time, so what are you, Jewish? What are you, Hebrew, Messianic? No, we're none of this. We're observers of the will and the Torah and the instruction of the Most High. That's what we are. It's a lifestyle. Only religion, and this is in the canon, the only religion that Yah finds acceptable is to take care of orphans and widows and to keep yourself from being corrupted by the world. That's it. That's religion. Again, I'm not here to bash religion. I'm not here to bash Christianity. I'm here to empathize and plead with all the people who have grown up. I know thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, all of whom are really good people. I have very few toxic people in my life. But many of them are sitting for what's coming because they don't know anything about the way the world works, and they've been lied to about the way the kingdom of heaven works. If you look at Revelations chapters 2 and 3, it speaks of the 7 churches of Asia. So you remember Smyrna, Thyatira, Laodicea, Ephesus, Pergamum, Sardis, and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the only group of people that that Yeshua was like, all right, you guys, you passed the test. You got an A. You did everything I asked you to do. Hang tight. Help is on the way. For all the other 6, Thyatira being the one that's like, listen, all right, I'm going to put you in the tribulation. They don't really give stipulations as to why, but they're going to basically explain, or basically explains, hello, Ocean. I just saw that you joined. What's good, Ocean? How you doing? He explains that the church of Thyatira has to endure for a period of time. The Church of Philadelphia is good, but the other 5 churches all have spot or blemish and all end up being refined in the fire. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people's visions, prophecies, and dreams of the end times where they, in tears, explain that it is through the tribulation, through the FEMA camps, through the imprisonment, through the starvation, get humbled enough to ask for truth. And that's a sad and scary thing to think about. But what I'm here trying to do is help you hop from Sardis or Ephesus or Laodicea into Philadelphia, or at least into Thyatira, before it's too late. And that was my prayer 5 years ago. And I said, yeah, I want you to help me understand what this is. He impressed upon me that, like a crossword puzzle book, the answers are in the back of the book. The answers are at the beginning and the end. The beginning is the theme stated, the gloss or whatever, the answers at the tail end. When I read Revelation 2 and 3, and I spent a good month reading and rereading and reading and rereading and recognizing that I needed to go into Hebrew lexicons and like Greek lexicons to really understand what they were saying. The time was past for me to pretend like I knew exactly what Revelation was talking about. I had to humble myself big time and go, I don't know anything about what I thought I knew, but I now realize that I was being misled. I was engaging in practices that are extremely pagan, and the only reason I don't recognize them as such is because the governing body that governs the religion in the part of the world that I grew up in, the Vatican, says, for 1800 years now that these are Christian practices. Weeping for Tammuz, but calling it Lent is a Christian practice. Practicing Advent. These are Babylonian things. You do not enter the kingdom of heaven and practice Babylonian things. The two do not equate. And it behooves us to, like the 400 relay, recognizing that baton is coming around that third leg, because we're here at this anchor leg, and if we're not in stride, we will get smoked. All right, I competed on Division I level stuff. You had to be fast, and just because you was fast, it don't mean the next dude wasn't faster. And I had to really learn through sports what dedication and perfection and refinement of one's craft is really all about. And I had to learn about understanding my opponent and sizing up strengths and weaknesses in whoever I was up against in a particular match, whether it's a track meet or basketball game, to know how I'm supposed to win, right? Offense wins games, but defense wins championships. How many people have heard that statement? I've heard it, I don't know, 1,000,000 times my entire life. I believe that same premise can be applied to a spiritual worldview, in the sense that prayer is great. Absolutely. It is the best. It's like a hotline, a bat phone to the Father. It's wonderful. It's important. It's necessary. We should never cease praying. I'm trying to get better at praying for myself, for myself and my family. But operating the plays of the playbook of my team, practicing the Torah. If you claim to follow the Jesus that claimed to have followed the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or I should not that he claimed that he did follow the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, then you will do the things that he did. This is like me saying, all right, my name is Yeshua, and I'm going to give you the model for what to do. And you looking like, yeah, I do like that. I'm going to change his name to Jesus, and I'm not going to do what he says to do, but I'm going to follow. Follow. All right. Yeah. Doing my pagan thing over here. It does not work like that. And we're coming up on a time where the rubber's about to meet the road, man. That's why I'm saying this again. I get it. I have to do a lot of qualification, and I'm sure a lot of you have questions. There is no mixing over and over in the scriptures. T-Lin is right. There is a tremendous warning against not worship me the way the heathens do. I think that the story of Genesis, like I remember the story of Genesis when they are making the golden calf, when Moses comes down off the mountain and he's pissed and he's like, what are you doing? I'm up there for a whole 40 days, which is a long time. Anyway, and you guys are making this golden calf. Like Yahweh just rescued you from your Egyptian slave masters. And I just remember being taught that story and learning it as a child, like, oh, Israel, how short it could possibly be. I mean, God just rescued you, and here you are worshiping calves like 40 days later. Like, come on, bro. Little did I know until I reread it that the point of their making that calf was to worship Yahweh. They wanted to say thank you, but they had been in Egypt all of their life. Nobody in that group was 400 years old. There's a discrepancy about how long they were in exile.
They didn't know any different.
They didn't know any different.
That's all they knew at the time.
All they knew at the time was when we want to worship God, we burn our earrings and our rings and our teeth down into a cow and a calf, and this is how we do it. And Yahweh was not pleased with that at all, whatsoever. So when it's, oh, well, I'm not celebrating Easter, I'm celebrating resurrection, that does not cut it. 0%. Yeah. It cuts it -1%, because now you're thumbing your nose, if you ask me, to the truth of what actually happened. This isn't a belief issue. This is a history issue. This actually is the case. I didn't make none of this stuff up. Easter is a day dedicated to the fertility goddess. That's why there's bunnies and eggs, because that
and in Sweden, there's witches.
And witches, yeah, that's the whole thing. In America, hold on, I'll let you finish. In America, it's like, pay some eggs and go Easter bunny hopping. And like, Easter. And dress up real nice and show up to church. How
does that go together? I don't know. Eggs are cool.
Eggs, whatever,
it's
sure.
Representing the actual fertility goddess.
It's a nod to the fertility goddess.
If you know anything about up on her, then you'll see that eggs are a very big thing back in the day, that they were born through an egg.
Yeah, it's a whole backstory to how Semiramis existed and how she's divine. She was formed in an egg. You see Lady Gaga show up in an egg to the MTV. Yeah. It's all connected. But
I just wanted to say...
In Sweden...
Yeah. Well, I just said in Sweden, kids, they dress up as little witches, and they go from door to door and ask for candy. And and they paint eggs too. So right. I mean, you can see how. So in a why nation, you have the bunnies and what doesn't go with. That's also in symbolism for the fertility goddess. Go ahead.
In a nation, Sweden, that has produced a wonderful, wonderful human being here, my wife. This nation existed before America, and they were celebrating Easter with witches. So which one is it? The resurrection or witches? Because before you was even a nation, some other people was doing the same holiday with witches, and before they were even a nation, some other people was the holiday straight dedicated to Semiramis, putting ash on their forehead in a commemoration of the death of Nimrod and his rebirth of his son Tammuz.
I'll be right back.
So there's a whole history lesson to be had that we do not have time for today, and I don't want to make this too long and too laborious, but I do want to say that we're coming up on a time where things are going to change. And what I'm offering to you, the listener, whoever watches this, if Facebook leaves it up for long enough, because you know how they be, is to come into an understanding that you have been tricked. I'm gonna talk very seriously here for a second. And I'm hoping that you'll understand with love and with patience and with gentleness and meekness. I'm not here to insult anybody. I am not here to make fun of anybody. I'm here to say I was doing all this 4 or 5 years ago, and I just learned this, and I've been a little scared to talk about it up until today. But I'm because I've got a little girl who just woke up from a nap with some chunky thighs. I'm like, chunky.
Well, all that to say too.
Hold on. I was in the middle of a sentence.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Not all
Keep
that.
Talking.
I didn't say nothing yet.
The entire time. That's fine.
Well, right.
No, you have a point, babe.
I want to say in all sincerity that we've been lied to, man. We have been lied to. You have been lied to. No, people don't like to hear that, but you've been lied to. I'm here today to lie to you, to tell you how I found I was lied to. All right, this isn't about me being smarter than anybody. This is about me being barely worthy of even having this conversation because of the imperfections that I still deal with. But the endeavor is simply, thank you, Andrew, very much. She got that gut, though, don't she? Look at that milk gut.
It's a baby.
My endeavor is to help and to heal and to share and to make a way for people to have an out and a lifeline in the time that's coming, where it might seem like God is very distant, or at least not holding up to what we were told he said he was going to do in times of trouble, because we live in America and we said a prayer 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. We're getting to a place of change so quick. I mean, I'm using it as a litmus test. We have the most information. I don't know how many people I'm texting in China right now, but in Italy, it's gone from like not that bad to kind of a big deal in like 5 or 6 days, like not even that long. What most people don't know is that in America, the shipping ports have all stopped. If you go to your local Walmart, Kmart, Target, CVS, John's, Vons, Ralph's, Harris Teeter, Piggly Wiggly, any of these stores, Dollar Store, any of them, 90% of that stuff comes into the country on shipping containers that are shipped through the sea A metric called the Baltic Dry Index is one of the better metrics to measure that type of activity, and it's at an all-time low. I've seen videos from people here in Long Beach, which is the largest port in America, that 2 weeks ago they're like, yo, there are no cans coming in. There's nothing shipping. If nothing changes here,
the implication will be shown.
The implication is going to be felt on the store shelves. I talked to people in Maryland, my buddy who's in Maryland, and he's like, listen, it just changed like from a few days ago. This is getting crazy, and the virus is a scare. I don't have fear over this because I understand what's really happening with the whole virus thing. Now, I'm not saying don't take precaution. I'm just saying they're lying to you about what the true issue is. And you can tell they're handling it in a way where America is being set up to be torn down, to be made an example of on the world. So you should travel outside of America and hear what the rest of the world thinks about it.
Yeah.
It's not what we are told they think about it. It's not the same. And it's come to my attention, and I feel like the Ruach has put on my spirit that America is about to be made an example of for her disobedience and for the dedication by her Masonic forefathers to the satanic agenda. Not one nation under God. And if you want to call it God, it's not the God of the Bible that this one nation was placed under. I think individuals meant well at certain points in history. But
even on the dollar bill, it says... Yeah.
We're way past that. Even on the dollar bill, there's
order out of chaos, it says.
Yeah. It says he approves of our endeavors. Order out of chaos, I believe it's on some bill, but
on the $1 bill, I believe. Okay.
I bring this to you today because we're at a point where we have some decisions we have to make about how we're going to proceed going forward. I think that we've been disobedient because we've been lied to, man. We've been set up, right? And we can change, and there's still time, but you gotta kind of like light a fire under your butt, and you have to start thinking and relearning and asking the Father for the truth in all things. That was our prayer. It's still our prayer, but we prayed it pretty much every day for at least 2 or 3 years. Father, please teach us the truth in all things, please, because we're finding, I mean, Andrew's right, it is just the beginning. Right. And where this is going to go next, nobody knows. I don't know. I'm not a psychic. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no clue what's going to happen next. I have a heads up that in about a week or two, there's going to be nothing to restock their local Walmart shelves with. So while everybody's in a feeding frenzy for toilet paper now, toilet paper is almost like the least of my worries. I get newspaper and, well, not Brillo pads, but newspaper and like printer paper over a lack of food and water, man. It's something else happening, and the fallout over the perception of the issue is creating a secondary issue that, when combined with the global situation of how every other country is basically taking this more serious than us, and America's just now in the last 5 or 6 days figuring it out. Oh, maybe go get some stuff at the store. We've been set up. And before that setup came, our pastors, priests, popes, ministers, shamans, gurus, spiritual leaders set us up because they were set up. Not because they were all evil people, but because they were set up and miseducated under the educational system that every pastor seems to want to have to go through. If I need to start talking to you about the good news, that is, you have life through Jesus, why do I have to go to this guy and pay him thousands of dollars to teach me how to do that? I don't understand. But long story short, about that. China has been 100% locked down for 50 days now. One family member per household. Right, we'll get into that in a second. Kristen's really right. Different stuff is happening in the other parts of the world. And please do not trust Fox. Please do not trust MSNBC. Please do not trust CNN. Please do not trust most of this alternative news media, because all they're focused on is one of two tricks that are set up for the states. You either fall under the mainstream trick, which is you need toilet paper and hand sanitizer because that's the only thing that's going to protect you. And the other secondary trick for the halfway woke folks is, we've had Ebola, Zika, SARS, anthrax, H1N1, bird flu, swine flu, all before. We've been fine. And what they're not telling you is that the real issue is structural. It's not even about the flu. It's about the foundation of the land of your country. Who owns the bank that you pay your mortgage to? Where your goods and services come from? who's in place to funnel those through the United Nations and the UNICEF and the World Health Organization and FEMA, and your president catches coronavirus because nobody's saying if he's taking a test or not, even though he was in meetings. Like, it's ridiculous. It's just insane. So it's caused us to break silence on some things that we would otherwise just have as I'm getting squeezed out of the frame here. It's okay. I'm sitting there like, all right, I'm sitting. It's caused us to break silence on some things that we would otherwise have in personal conversations where we can really connect with people and answer their questions more specifically. But we've been disobedient as a people, as a nation. And go ahead.
I just want to just intervene a little bit here. When it comes to the commandments and how it's set up and everything, and that God is the same, Yah is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And really what's happening here on this earth is that it's to the test before the life, the true life. And the life is a model that has always been there. It's a heavenly model. So I believe that it's going to be the same model in heaven. That's why it's a certain way. And the more people fall away from it, the more, far away from the actual way of things, how things are done in heaven is what we're following from. And so, when Yeshua came, why he's so important is because he was pointing back to the original foundation of how the Father created things, like how it was in the days of Adam and Eve, for example. He always points back. Well, in the beginning they did this. And so I don't know if we got to this point when we were when I was in the other room, but another thing that we came to understand, not just about the commandment following the appointed feasts and times of Yahweh, but it's also how he treated how to go about how to be in nature, or how to take care of your animals, what they ate, and everything like that. And I'm sure everyone knows that in the very beginning, what did they eat? It was the herbs, the fruit, or the seed-bearing fruit, and things like that. The animals ate also the same things.
I'm just playing.
And, well, what is the difference now? This is why I'm saying we are not like everybody else when it comes to the Christian way of doing things, or even the Hebrew movement way of doing things. It's
for the record.
Yes,
we don't consider ourselves Hebrew Israelite. I don't consider myself a black Hebrew Israelite. We don't consider ourselves Messianic. We don't consider ourselves Jewish. At this point, we barely consider ourselves Christian because we don't really do the things that Christians do. But we empathize and sympathize and love all the people. We simply follow what Yahweh said. And many of those religions follow portions of what Yahweh said, but not all. And that what we're trying to do is cut the fat, man, get back to the source, trim all this nonsense away, get all this pagan extra out, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Out.
Also,
and
the
truth.
reason Yeshua was risen is also something that we have come to understand is something that's been kind of skewed. Because if you think about it, like, everything is very natural. Everything that's been created. If you look how the seasons come about every year, it's the structure that's happening, right? It's a very natural thing. If you cut yourself, you're gonna bleed. If you eat something that's rotten, you're gonna feel sick. It's natural things that happens in this world that the Father created. And so when you say, for example, the blood of Jesus will cover you.
You're this is great. I don't mean to set you up, but I want to keep it focused. But go ahead, finish.
Right. Well, it's just think of that in a natural sense. we say that Jesus died for our sins and therefore we're covered. But the only way that you're covered is if you repent, you change your ways, because now you're walking in the way. His death and resurrection wasn't for him to die for our sins. Yes, he died, and it was a sacrifice that he did upon for himself to us, but it was also so that we would know that he was the true Messiah. That's what was prophesied about. So that's also, when you read in is it Matthew or all the Gospels, when it says that you ask for signs and visions, or you rebellious. I say, baby, you're better at those.
This is a wicked and adulterous generation is always seeking after a sign, but I will say to them, no sign will be given to them except that of the sign of Jonah, who was in the belly of the whale 3 days. See, this is a Bible class coming back. I knew this only because I memorized it when I was 10 for homework, but it comes in handy now, 25 years later.
But then you have to go into the story of Jonah. What happened to him? He actually died in the belly of the I was going to say whale, but I don't know what kind of fish it was. But he died in the belly. He was in there for 3 days and 3 nights. Then he was brought back to life. And that's when the people of Nineveh would recognize the prophet, because he was risen again. So you have to put yourself back in those times. What is that's a natural thing that happens. There is this man, he's talking about how we're supposed to do this and that. But I mean, yes, we've been reading about the prophets and what they say about the Messiah that's coming, but we don't know who this guy is until he is put on the cross or put to death and then rose again. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe there's something to this dude. Maybe we should listen to him, It was that pinnacle of time that is so important to us right now. But he did not change his ways. He was doing the Father's will. It was that everything had changed because there was things that were added and taken away from the word of the Father. It was being, like we see now, we see that there are, rules and regulations that are put in place and changes like that over time that are changed and added to. And that's what happened, for the Israelites, and that's why Yeshua came to set us straight on the path.
On the path. It was more about
this is
establishing a perfect life on how to follow the Torah and how to really apply the kingdom of heaven.
To be the kingdom. To be the kingdom.
The whole verse about him talking to the Pharisees, you shut up the kingdom of heaven for the people who, people you're responsible for. You're shutting them out by the redaction of all the important elements of how to truly enter this kingdom. And you brood of vipers, I believe that was the term he gave to them. And this is all because a long-standing cycle that Israel and the people of the covenant of Yahweh went through based on their disobedience, man. It's like, Ziv is great, but if she totally disobeys me every time I ask her to do something, I'm pretty much gonna punish her. I don't believe in this no punishment nonsense. I have love. I do it because I want her to be better. But there is no sort of I could do whatever I want to.
You got to see the difference between what is the right thing to do and what is not the right thing to do. And when you teach that to a child, you have to give them that instruction, or they won't know. How else will they know? They're not going to just come out of the belly, out of the mother, and know what to do.
And know what to do, exactly. With that said, where I want to kind of, again, hone in on is the season that we're in. And we're not going to make this too long. We're already at 1 hour and 48 minutes. Let's try to keep it at 2 hours. Hello, Lorenzo, Shaquaya, T-Lynn, John Woods. Hello, everybody. So, we're coming upon a time where we're in the season of Passover. We're in the season of Easter. It is our family's practice to not associate anything to do with pagan holidays anymore. We stopped celebrating Christmas. We stopped celebrating Halloween. We stopped celebrating Easter. There's more, but those are the three big ones. It has not been easy. You know, my family has been quite respectful. I mean, Jen's family has been respectful too, but quite understand why. Our goal is not to dissociate ourselves from family, but to rather honor the Father. It does not honor the Father to make a golden calf and try to worship Yahweh in the way that they worshipped Baal, which, by the way, when you translate Baal, B-A-L, Baal, to Latin, it's Lord. So the title Lord, I mean, I know so many people have an endearing feeling about the Lord that they serve, but that word Lord is a transliteration of the word Baal. Master, Adonai, that can work, right? But you know, we're at a season where we need to mature, man. We have to grow up and learn these terms and learn what happened and course correct, because if not, the prophecies about the generation, the wickedness of a generation being played out on their children and their children's children to an extent, but then the blessings of a righteous generation being played out on their children to 1,000 or more generations extent is coming down the pike, man. And for a lot of us, we have endearing. I love my grandma, my great grandparents for what I know about them, but we can't let tradition usurp truth.
Right.
And if the internet comes online and gives us enough ability to take an afternoon read into the history of Ishtar worship and go to find any former witch out there who's always telling you that May 1st and the season around May 1st is the largest activity for witchcraft and child sacrifice that there is, and then understanding that the Semiramis Nimrod Tammuz dynamic was always about worshiping the fallen god of Satan under the auspices of a misguided grandson of Noah named Nimrod, or great grandson, I forget the genealogy, but then it behooves us to not lockstep with that. Once we know, and for us, we just never knew. So what we came here today to talk to you about over the last hour and 51 minutes, goodness, is now 52 minutes, is that it's time to get righteous, you guys. I think righteousness is going to be the only thing that helps. Listening to the Ruach, not into the news, using your sound judgment, moving when it's time to move, staying when it's time to stay, and getting out of these pagan practices that we want to over-justify because they're traditional, familiar, or what my family think of me, or what my clergy members think of me, what my deacons think. All of that stuff, they're going to think how they're going to think.
What is y'all going to think about you?
What is y'all going to think about you? And what is that decision going to do for your family when it comes time where there ain't nothing on the shelf? Are you going to get manna dropped from heaven, or are you going to die of starvation like many other well-meaning Christians and Israelites and Hebrews of old did, because they were too stubborn to change in the face of truth? And again, this isn't about being antagonistic. I only raise my voice to light enough of a fire under people's butts to ask more questions. I'm an open book. I don't have Facebook Messenger installed on my phone, so if you message me, I will get it. But the next time I'm on my computer and I check my faces, I don't see half these messages. So I don't know that they're happening in many times. However, I believe that we're entering into a zone where it's time to get right. It's time to get perfect. It's time to get perfected. It's time to get the bleach out. We got spots on our cloak. He's coming back for a bride without spot or blemish, man. We look like some Dalmatians up in here. Like Cruella de Vil, half our head is black, the other half is white. We driving a Cadillac crazy with crazy tail lights. We're spotted, and we were set up by the disobedience of our forefathers. And so it's not even about casting blame. I'm not here to blame any single person or pastor or priest or pope or anything. It's the only blame that we're going to have when we stand on Judgment Day before the Father is whether we sought him hard enough in his truth. And I could honestly say for myself in 2015 that no, I have not. Like if I were to die and show up at the pearly gates, if I was like, hey, Chris, so would you say you love me with all your heart? Oh yeah, God, I do. I love you with all my heart. Okay, like, do you really think that that's what that looks like? I mean, did you love me as much as you loved After Effects or Final Cut Pro or Instagram? You know, like, how much time and how much understanding of me and my kingdom and my Torah, my laws that have been since before the foundation of the earth, have you spent learning? And I had to be honest with myself. I would have been like, well, I mean, when you put it like that, God, I mean, you know, I would have been short. And he's been very patient with me. And he's taught me over the last 5 years through a tremendous amount of research and through days where I didn't research or read at all. I just went on walks all day and thought a lot of time in my thoughts and in my prayers. And through speaking with others, both Kodeshim, people of the set apart, the elect, if you will, and the people who are on this path already, and people who have no clue about the path, but who have an insight into the way that the systems of this world work. And through the conversations that collectively brought me here, I am now at a place where I want to admonish and encourage my friends and my loved ones to get out of Babylon, come out of her, my people. If y'all have not been told that America is Babylon, I'm here to be the first one to tell you. I got documents and books and stories for days on why that is. Babylon is at this point a concept that is being modeled after an ancient actual city and nation that did fall. But if you remember in the dream of Daniel, the head of gold, the chest of silver, the torso of bronze, we're now at the feet part. We're like way down in the list, and everything is worse than it is because it's a mimic of what it was. And in many ways, it's cornier because it's not even as strong of a delusion as some of them cats back in the day had, but yet Yahweh and his Torah stands. So with that, we're going to read and conclude this with, which verse was it? It was Matthew.
This one.
The whole chapter or what?
Yeah.
The whole chapter.
Let me see.
We didn't rehearse this. Oh.
Yeah.
The whole
This
chapter.
is live,
Okay.
As we speak. But before you continue, babe, I just, I just want to say that it's easier than you think. It's really just a character thing of being a good person to your neighbor and to yourself. I mean, however you would treat yourself, you would treat your neighbor, of course. But because we are created in the image of Yah, then we should treat a person like we would treat Yah. So, and how we would treat ourselves. So, it may sound like it's hard, but really I don't think it is.
It's not hard. It's not like
the only
everything.
thing that's been hard is how, I guess, the persecution, or people are like, well, why do you do this? Like, well, it says in the Bible to do this, so it doesn't say that to celebrate Christmas there. It doesn't say,
That's a whole other thing. Christmas.
It doesn't say
Tangent.
to celebrate certain
just
things.
take an afternoon and literally just Google the origins of Christmas. And if you really think it's about the birth of Jesus, if you think Madonna, the biggest witch of the West, could celebrate the same Messiah that you celebrating, then you're fooled. You've been fooled. You've been had. I was fooled. I celebrated it for my entire. But we've come out of that now. It's been about 4 years that we've stopped doing that. And we're now in the season of the beginning of the Moed, the appointed times. The Father's like, listen, this is my calendar. I'm going to be here at this time. If you want to meet with me, come at this time.
And that's another thing, too, with the calendar. That's all.
I know. If you respect your father, like I respect my father, I'm going to show up when he asks. And is that the calendar called the Hillel 2 calendar that every other Jew essentially observes? No, it isn't. That was changed in
It was a solar
usurping
calendar.
Priesthood that came well after Yeshua's time. There is a different calendar based off of
The
individual
Enochian calendar.
named Enoch, who we observed, and who that's a message for a different day. All this to say, we're going to read something that has to do with peace and word. Has just released music a song called No Need to Worry. It's really inspired this season. It's kind of timely. We knew that it was a great song. It was her favorite song out of her new album. And we released it first. And when we were releasing it, we had no clue that the coronavirus was a thing. But it turns out to be quite timely and unique in that it is a season that we really need to learn how to trust. And the only, we will keep, the Father will keep his word. Period. It will happen. But part of his word is that if we're to expect the system of his protection to be in effect for us, we got to keep our end of the word too, of the bargain too. It's a covenant. It's a contract. It's like any contract. I believe that we're in a new season where this might sound new and foreign to some people, and it might sound lock and step and very familiar with others. But we are at a season where we have to just do what's right, man. We're not going to be okay if we're not in the Father's will. Not doing the Torah, you're not in his will. You might have been lied to and told that grace has covered you under a new covenant or new testament, but that was, whoever told you that was misled. They might love you. They're probably really great people. They were misled, and they're gonna face a steeper sentence if they're responsible for misleading people away from observing the true nature of who Yahweh is as represented in his loving instruction, which is really the true translation of Torah.
And I think also that's one of the reasons why he gave us the Shema to recite every morning and every evening, which is to remind you that Yahweh is one. You want to recite it? Because we do it every
Hear, O Israel, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh your Elohim, the Lord your God, as most people would say it. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. That means Yahweh is one. Elohim is a plural word. So there is a pluralist nature about who the Father is. The Ruach HaKodesh, like the Spirit of Wisdom, is a female spirit. I won't say God is a woman, but the Father in heaven is a fatherly spirit. The Son is the expression of a perfection of the joining of that two outworked through his Mashiach, Yeshua. But that endeavor is a unified endeavor, and in a Hebrew concept is echad, which means one. It doesn't mean the number one, it means echad.
And
if
to
learn what echad means is to begin to get it. And I never knew what that word means. If you never heard that word means, then you don't. It's not like you're a bad person, you're not stupid, you just don't know. And maybe in this coming 2-week downtime that everybody has, if the internet don't go down, we may be focusing on a rogue booger flew out her nose. Focusing on I got it. Prayer and guidance from the Ruach is probably gonna be better than Netflix and the whole. I'm not saying we're not gonna pop over Netflix. I'm just saying it's a lot about the change. I really do believe, I really wanted to say / needed to say, I guess, for a while now, is that the chief of that should start with your Sabbaths. If you're not doing if out of all the Torah commands, number 4, which says, remember the Sabbath day to kadosh it. That means to set it apart, like Lynn said that word means. And you're not observing that, his people are known by his Shabbat. That's like, Jen brought this out. I'm not even going to go into it right now, but this is a painting.
And you need to finish the Shema too, because you never did.
I didn't. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh your Elohim, Yahweh Echad. Some people say, add in the intermittent sentence, blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. And then it ends with, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim, the Lord your God, with all of your heart, all of your being, and all of your strength. And that is a proclamation that is in the Torah that's asked of us to say every night, or whenever we wake up, go to sleep, which for me is not every morning and night, because I sleep very randomly.
Sometimes in the afternoon.
And sometimes
if you wake up in the afternoon.
Sanctify them by the truth, and his word is the truth. I agree with that, Asia. And that word it was written in a language that looked like this. These are not just random pictures. These are the ancient pictographic form of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph bet, it goes from left to right. We won't get into it today, but Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Let, A, Wal, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mim, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pe, Sade, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Ta. These letters have definitions, meaning Ta is a monument, it's a sign. Resh is the headship of something. Pei is supposed to be represent an open mouth, like mine's been open for the last 2.5 hours. Sorry, babe. They all have meanings. We'll get into that later.
Everything.
But
The Father of Heaven is in every detail. Every detail. Even to the language,
and
to the
letter.
letters. If you look at the letter B here, Biet means house. This is an ox head, meaning the
headship
the
of
headship.
a thing. Yeah.
And
the sheen, which as you see here is sh or s. Ba, sh, ba, t. In Hebrew, the outer letter, the first letter and the last letter act like bookends for the overall definition, where the middle letters define the minutia of what's being said. The sign of separation. This is supposed to represent two front teeth. Like mine, I got one that got knocked out playing basketball, and the other one is kind of cricked to the side. That's supposed to be sheen, two front teeth. That's why when Jesus says, I don't come to bring peace but a sword, I came to separate, he was explaining the sh in his name, Yeshua. That's what that sh meant to represent. It's like I'm coming to slice the people who, the tips from the doers, the people who pop off at the mouth, and the people who actually do what we ask. My Father collectively representing one, that we're a Trinitarian unity where none of the focus is placed on the Father and all of it's placed on the Son. No, where everything is set up by the Father and perfected in the Son, so that we would have an earthly human model to look and be like, okay, that's what we gotta do. What Yeshua did? Okay, got it. Thanks, Yeshua. Thanks for the heads up. The Sabbath is the sign of separation. So it is by my Sabbath that I will know who are mine. Because the Father said this, and didn't nobody but the Emperor of Constantine in 300 AD, the Edict of Milan, come by and say otherwise. So if your allegiance, you desire for that allegiance to be on the one true Most High God named Yahweh, then you should maybe consider, put it like this: you shouldn't do anything that you're not convicted to do. We have decided to get lockstep with Him and what His will and His Torah suggests. And it's been very fulfilling for us. It's been challenging in many ways, but it's been rewarding in other ways, because for the first time ever, I'm not shaking. I ain't scared of no coronavirus. We got enough butt wipe and baby food to last us a little bit. And more than anything, we recognize that finally now there's no question but my salvation. We're working out our salvation with fear and trembling like He asked us to, because a single prayer that I said when I was 12 years old does not cover anything that I would ever possibly do. It begins a journey of acknowledging that I'm willing to learn who the Father is, but it does not perfect that journey. And I will be remiss if I just didn't share that with people, man. I guess, you know what I mean? It's like people need to know. Anywho, Now that we've totally gone over 2 hours, let's read from this purple Bible. What Matthew chapter 6 says. Beware of doing your kind deeds before men in order to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in the Shamayim. The Shamayim is the heavens. The better translation of that is the heights, or the upper atmospheres. Heaven has ever in the entire Bible been written singularly. Now, your King James Version might say that, but we'll get into whole Bible translation. That's a whole different topic. Shamayim is a Hebrew word, and that word is the derivative or the original word of any time you ever see heaven or heavens written in the scriptures. It should always be rendered with an S, because it is always plural. And if it's singular, it's talking about like literally the upper atmosphere where the planes fly. Spiritually speaking, the Shamayim is always plural. So if you hear me say Shamayim, I'm talking about the heavens, the realm of where the Father exists. Thus, when you do a kind deed, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the congregations and in the streets, to be praised by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. But when you do a kind deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your kind deed shall be in secret. And your Father who sees in secret shall himself reward you openly. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the congregations and on the corners of the streets to be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. All the people clapping and cheering for them. But when you pray, go into your room and having shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret shall reward you openly. And when praying, do not keep on babbling like the Gentiles, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. I mean, not knocking what we grew up in, but I can't tell you how many like, oh, Father God, oh Lord, Father God, babbling for their words. Like, long story short, anywho. Do not be like those Gentiles, for they think that they shall be heard for their many words. Therefore, do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. This, then, is the way that you should pray. Our Father, who is in the Shalom, let your name... Oh, you want to read it? Oh, you can't speak English yet or Swedish? Well, all right, then I'll keep reading. Our Father, who is in the Shamaim, let your name be Kodesh. You would have otherwise heard this rendered, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed is what people celebrate who celebrate All Hallows Eve, Halloween. To hallow something is to revere it in a witchcraft sense. So this particular translation just kind of does away with that and says, let your name be set apart. Like, set apart. Be set apart in such a way that is esteemable. Our Father who art in heaven, let your name be Kodesh. Let your reign come, let your desire be done on earth as it is in the Shamayim. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into trial, but deliver us from the wicked one. For yours is the reign and the power and the esteem forever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your Father Shamayim shall also forgive you. But if you don't forgive men their trespasses, neither shall your Father forgive your trespasses. And when you do fast, do not be sad-faced like them hypocrites. Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm hungry. Oh, I'm a hypocrite. Look how sad my face. I'm a bit much. Okay. For they disfigure their faces, or so that they appear to be fasting to men. Surely I say to you, they have their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you don't appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret shall reward you openly. Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in the Shamayim, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. Or all your body shall be enlightened. But if your eye is evil, all your body shall be darkened. If then the light that is within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one is able to serve two masters, for he shall hate the one and love the other, or he shall cling to the one and despise the other. For you are not able to serve both Elohim and wealth, is what this particular translation, but other translations will say the world, or you can't serve God and other, whatever that we want to put in that other category. Because of this, I say to you, do not worry about your life. This is the key part. Do not worry about what you shall eat or drink, or about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than the food of the body, more than the clothing? Look at the birds of the Shamayim. Where's Chamberlain? Chamberlain, where you go?
I think she's asleep.
Oh, she went in the bathroom. She went to sleep. Look at the birds of the Shamayim, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into storehouses, yet your Father of the Shamayim feeds them. Are you not worth more than they? And which of you is by worrying able to add one pekos? A pekos is like iota, like an inch, 1 microsecond to his lifespan. So why do you worry about clothing? Note well the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And I say to you that even Solomon in all his esteem was not dressed like one of these. But if Elohim so clothes the grass of the field, which exists today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more you, O you of little belief? Do not worry then, saying, well, what are we going to eat, or what are we going to drink, or what will we wear? For all of these the Gentiles seek for, and your Father of the Shamayim knows that you need these. But seek first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these shall be added to you. Do not then worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have its own worries. Each day has enough evil of itself. It is with that we will leave you with this first podcast or live stream or whatever this is. Thanks, Joe. Baby, for sure. And we wish to simply share with you all that we love you all, and that we'll be doing more of this. We might come back tomorrow. I haven't decided how frequent we're going to do this, but we're just going to do it, and then we'll leave it up on our Facebook so that anybody who wants to watch can watch. We know that the season is coming upon us for change. I don't have to go into the backstory of all the people who I know and have talked to who are connected with people of influence in this country, and the collective word from behind the scenes is that it's go time. This has been a long time in the making for a lot of people. I don't have time right now to explain what it is really that's been in the making, but we're here to tell you that if stuff doesn't seem right to you, that's because it isn't. It hasn't been a very long time, and the baby seems like
she concurs.
Are we harmonizing today, baby?
Did I say concurs? No,
concur. Concurs. Yeah, that's right. That's right. She concurs. Anywho, all that to say, that verse said it good in Matthew 6. Don't, be smart. Don't test the Father. Don't I'm not buying any toilet paper and water. And the Father, it's not about that. This video is the Father providing. Yeah. It is a warning to you to say, listen, your shipping ports, if you know anything about international commerce, they've stopped. That means if the coronavirus ends tomorrow, there's still not going to be nothing on the shelf because the ports aren't bringing them in for at least another, I don't know when they'll start, but we should be feeling that at the store shelves within a week, or two. Go to your dollar store, go to anywhere but Costco, basically. Get what you can get. Do prepare so that you can help others, so that you can be prepared for what's coming. We will be lied to. We have been lied to by our news media, so trust it as little or none, as little as you can possibly pay attention to it, and really focus on asking the Father if the stuff that I was saying and that Jim was saying is true. And if it is, this coming season, consider celebrating and observing Passover as a first step. We did it for the first time. We had no clue what we were doing. We are vegan. We don't eat lamb. So there is ways to observe Passover without eating meat. And there's a whole separate topic about the things added and removed from the Torah and the scriptures after that, which we'll get on, on a later date. But there is a way to observe the Father's feasts without doing so in a fashion that the pagan priesthood that came after Moses but before King James, instituted in the 2800 or so years of time that was expired in that gap. And start there. Sit Easter out. I mean, you might be not able, might be a Easter convenience because everybody's quarantined, but consider that the Father making it easy for you, because that is an extremely pagan holiday. If you know anything about witchcraft or child sacrifice, that's one of their biggest times of the year. Everything about this satanic thing is an energy gathering thing. So, I'm going to celebrate it, but I'm going to call it Resurrection Day, is still lending energy to the same ritual, and the Father doesn't find any honor in that. And consider just humbling ourselves in prayer and fasting, and in it's simple. I mean, I'm fumbling for words only now because I just want to summarize my plea to my friends and my family. I love you. That's the reason I'm saying this. If people don't want to believe me, that's okay. The baby seems to have her own opinions about things. I can really hear myself think.
She's playing music as we speak.
And
But if you have any questions too, if you have any
reach
questions,
out, ask her. She knows.
reach out. You can always also, email
Tag
me,
us.
message me.
Yeah.
Because I really look at his messages very often, but I look at it, and even when it comes to the calendar, the Enochian calendar, I was praying so hard. I was even trying to read the book of Enoch to try to figure out, or Jubilees, I believe, trying to figure out when was the actual calendar taking place, because it's so skewed. The beginning of the year is when spring is, when everything starts to come to life, which makes sense if you think about his life.
Everything comes, again, the times and dates have all been obfuscated through different Roman councils and priesthoods over the years for different reasons, and we'll get into that in a different video.
So it's always about light. It's always going to be about the light, about life. If you consume, what you consume is death, or physically and metaphorically, then probably cut that out of your life. And so it's very simple if you think about it really in those terms. It's very just on the nose. And so when we celebrate our Passover, I think we've come to understand that first appointed time.
The whole camera.
It's okay. That whole calendar is how it's preserved, or how it's observed. I think that we have, with everything that we come to learn, figured out when that is. So if you
want to know when we plan on celebrating Passover, which is different from every other Jewish person that's going to be celebrating, we'll be happy to share when we do it, which is usually within like a week and a half or two offset from the other. The calendars almost match, but they don't quite match equally. We'll be happy to share anything that we've learned and everything that we've learned. We don't feel like arguing, so if you don't agree, then keep it moving, keep it scrolling. But if you find this interesting, then reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to share how we've come to this point. And so it's with that we say, Heidawa, arrivederci, adios. Oh, what?
Isn't that a satanic symbol?
I mean, a lot of them are.
But I should do
others,
Shema
but,
again. Shema in the beginning and the end. Because that's...
you do it this time then.
Okay. Yahweh or Elohim. Yahweh Echad. Israel. Yahweh or Elohim. Yahweh Echad. And you should love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might.
And with that, good night. All right. Oh, wait, I got to hit the end button. How does this work? Is this the one? Do I